You are listening to Women's Running Stories, the podcast where exceptional women runners share inspirational stories about their running experiences.
I did not expect it to run the American record, to be honest. It was just like, just go the way you feel, keep pushing and see what happened at the end of the day. So I finished the race really surprised, but I was really excited. My name is Betsy Saina. I am an Asics professional athlete. I ran marathons and the road races very much.
Yes, this episode features professional Asics marathon and distance road runner Betsy Saina. And this is the story of a champion's comeback, a redemption story, if you will. And it does involve setting a new American record. But before we hear more from Betsy, I want to welcome you to Women's Running Stories. I am Cherie Louise Turner. I am your host and producer. Thank you so much for being here. And before we get going, I want to give a shout out to a new supporter of the podcast, and that is Lagoon, maker of truly exceptional pillows. And it all begins by addressing your specific needs. Before you even buy your pillow, you can take a quiz and find out which model is right for you. And in addition to that, you can add or remove fill as you like. I have been using my Lagoon pillow for several months now, and I love it. They are super comfortable. I get a great night's sleep. And on top of everything else, Lagoon is just a great company. Their number one goal is for you to get a better night's sleep, because as we all know, a good night's sleep is really important for performing at your best in running and everything else you do in life. And the story you're about to hear with Betsy Saina emphasizes how important rest and recovery are and how good sleep plays a huge part in that. For listeners of Women's Running Stories, you can get 15% off your first order with Lagoon by using the discount code WRS15. Just go to lagoonsleep.com and apply the discount code. Again, the discount code is WRS15 and use it at checkout when you go to lagoonsleep.com. And enjoy a better night's sleep. All right, now on to Betsy Saina's story. This is a race report, and I do race reports for every single one of the USATF Road Circuit Series races. These are a series of races that happen all throughout the year, all throughout the country, and each race is a different distance or discipline, and each one serves as a national championship for the race that is being run. In addition to going after a national title, racers also earn money and they earn points. And the points go toward the series overall, which is decided at the end of the year. For each one of these race report episodes, I choose one top 10 finisher to talk about how the race went down from her perspective. And because a race is never only about what happens on race day, these race reports include context around what was happening leading up to the event at hand. And for this race report, there is a lot of really great context that came beforehand. This episode is focused on the 2024 USATF 25-kilometer National Championships, which took place on May 11th in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Betsy was returning as the reigning champion, having won this race last year in 2023. And just a quick note here about kilometers versus miles. 25k is 15.5 miles, and just as a refresher, the marathon, which is 26.2 miles, is 42.2 kilometers. All right, now, a bit of background on Betsy Saina. She was born in Kenya, and that is where she is currently living. Betsy came to the U.S. for college, and she had an incredible collegiate career racing for Iowa State University. She went on to become an Olympian, racing for Kenya in the 10,000-meter event at the 2016 Olympics in Rio, and she finished an incredible 5th place. Betsy has since become an American citizen and now competes for the United States. And like I mentioned up top, this race, the 25K, is part of a comeback for Betsy. Coming into 2024, she had solid ambitions of making the U.S. Olympic marathon team heading to Paris later this summer. To get on that team, she needed to place in the top 3 at the Olympic marathon trials, which took place earlier this year, 2024, in February. Anyone making bets about who would make that team had Betsy on their list. She had clocked the fastest marathon time of any American woman in 2023. She'd run a personal best, clocking an incredible 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 40 seconds at the Tokyo Marathon. And coming into the 2024 trials in February, Betsy was in the height of fitness. She had high expectations of making that team. But the marathon is always unpredictable, and the day did not turn out the way many people thought it would. And in this story, Betsy will get into all of that. But to start, I want to go back just a little further to an event that had a huge impact on Betsy's life, including her running and racing, and that was becoming a mom for the very first time. Betsy had her son in December of 2021, so the majority of that year she was navigating pregnancy and the new unpredictable experiences that come with it. So here to tell her story, beginning with her pregnancy journey, is Betsy Saina.
You know, like every mom is different. Every postpartum is always different. So for me, when I made the decision that I really wanted to start my family, and I love kids so much, and I was like, you know what, whatever happens, because as women, we don't know what to expect when you go for maternity leave. You don't know like how long it's gonna take you to come back. Some people will come back 100%. Some people will be like, it's gonna take like a couple years. So for myself, I told myself I'm gonna do all I can to make sure that that I can come back. But you cannot force that sometimes, because injuries sometimes can be a big challenge because you're coming with a new body. But the day I made the decision that I was going to take maternity leave, I knew I had already set my goal, saying I will try to stay fit as long as I can, meaning I wanted to push when I was pregnant. Like I wanted to keep running to stay fit and see what I can do. But I started running. When I was pregnant, I keep running, I keep doing exercises. My body was responding really, really well. And I remember when I was 7 months pregnant, and I was still able to do my exercises very well. I was still able to go for my runs, and I didn't gain a lot of so much weight when I was pregnant. So which was really one of the biggest things for me, because sometimes when you come back from maternity leave, when you are you have a lot of you gain more weight, it can be a big challenge, especially you start having like these injuries comes, especially like knee problem, or sometimes a lot of people are gonna have like sacrum issues because of the having that human being. It comes with a lot of challenges, and I was really fortunate to be able to have my son safely. And I took I remember taking one month of doing nothing at all, like just you remember when you have that child and you're just excited, you don't want to leave him aside, you just want to be around, because I was all the time you want to be checking on him, that mom who is crazy, like you want to see the child, oh, is he breathing well or doing this. So the first 1 month, to be honest, was kind of like, it was really, really crazy for me. It was really overwhelming. I was super excited, to be honest. But after the first month, the second month, I started doing like my core exercises. I really wanted to make sure that I have a strong body before I start running. And I was asking some people actually, because I have a lot of friends who who are runners, and they have had kids, and it was really one of the best opportunities to be able to ask some of, so what did you do? You want to hear different opinions and different ideas, and then you can see what you are taking from them. So I just took my time, and after like 2 months I started running, and I went to the gym, started these little exercises. But the good news with that, I did not my company Asics, they did not give me a lot of pressure, to be honest. They told me like to take my time. They were trusting in me that I will be back, which I don't know, like it was really one of the best things that it made my journey to be easy, because I was not pushing myself to the wall saying, oh, they gave me an ultimate time, like you have to be, you have to be ready in this time. So I took my time relaxing and with no pressure. So it's like racing. Like when you approach a race, sometimes when no one is expecting, or when you're not expecting much, that's the race that you produce more than the one that you're expecting too much. So yeah, I was really one of those moms who took the journey without pressure. And when my son was 9 months, I came to London, and I was pacing group 3, and I was like, oh my gosh, I ran like 72, and I was like, oh, that was, I think, so good. I was super happy to be out there and, like racing, and knowing that I have someone back home. Even though my son was very little, I remember like I was super excited to just be in that line and be able to be back in the competition world with other amazing women out there.
Yes, 9 months after having her son, Betsy was back to running fast and strong. She'd paced a group of women through the halfway point of the 2022 London Marathon in a terrific time of 72 minutes. She knew she was on the right track. And now she was bringing a little something extra to the start line with her.
I remember when I came back, I'm more excited, I'm more happy, because you have someone to run for, especially myself, that like I say, I know everybody's different. For me, if there's something that makes me happy is knowing that I have my son, It's been one of the biggest thing that makes me really happy. Is like being a mom, you really know that you are not running for yourself. Sometimes when you travel, you really want to go home, and at least for now, my son understands that mommy is a runner. So you really want to do well. You really want to perform. That way you have something to show him. And regardless of what happened, at least you know that you have someone at home. So it's not like long time ago where you ran. And I remember when I came to the UK back in 2014, 2015 and 2018, I remember like I didn't care like going home. Like when we finished the race, I remember I could spend at least like 2-3 days in the UK, just to do something around. But for me now, when I have my son at home, it's like I want to finish the race and get back home, because I know I have someone back home. So that's kind of like a lot of happiness for a mom. You really know that you have someone that you work for, and it's been really different, to be honest. It's changed a lot in me, because I feel like I have something really special. Like, it's not all about running. I love running so much, but I know like I'm not running for myself anymore. So that has been a big thing for me.
Having her son has brought Betsy some new motivation in her training and racing, and she also continues to rely on what's worked to bring her success in the past. When it comes to her training and preparation, Betsy maintains a firm commitment to rest and recovery.
Yeah, like for me, to be honest with you, like recovery is the biggest thing, especially for an athlete. I mean, being a mom, I know like I chose to go to Kenya and be based in Kenya when I had my son, basically because I knew like I will have all the whole village to take care of my son and to take care of me, because I'm that person that I need to sleep a lot. Like even when I was not a mom, I remember like every time when I finish my run, I just have to shut the door and take a nap like 2 or 3 hours in a day. It makes me wake up and feel like better and better. Even if I'm doing like hard training, I still feel like I recover really well. So I went to, being in Kenya, it's been one of the biggest things for me, because I have a babysitter who is with full time with my son. And for me to recover, I have to take a nap. So I always emphasize in recovery, because, if you want to achieve, if you want to get through the next session without feeling any fatigue, or, everything is about like recovery. If you go with like if you feel tired and you're still starting another session, you are not doing it right. So for me, I always feel like I have to take a nap every day, to be honest. My body knows that I finish my run in the morning, take my breakfast by 9:30, I'm already in bed, and I'll take a nap for like 2 to 3 hours. When I wake up, I take my lunch, and then maybe a little bit of resting in when I'm playing with my son, and then go for my second run. and come back home, have some rest again, have dinner. But I don't do other co-work, to be honest. Like I don't do any home duties. Like, I chose to recover well, and the only job that I do is my son and make sure that everything is running well in the house, but not myself doing them, because I feel like recovery is the most important thing as an athlete. It depends with, I always say, when you're training, there's, especially when you're training for the marathon, especially, it needs a lot of work. If you're doing like 200, and for myself, I normally do like 180 to 215 or 20 kilometers a week. So when I need to achieve that, and I have the gym session as well, if I don't recover well, my body will be crashing. So I always make sure that I get the right recovery. It makes me feel better. It makes me get back and get excited again to what is coming.
Yeah, during peak marathon training, Betsy puts in 180 to 200 kilometers per week, which roughly translates to 112 to 124 miles per week. And that is exactly what she was doing headed into the Olympic trials. It was how she arrived at the start line in exceptional shape, ready to earn her spot on the U.S. Olympic marathon team headed to Paris. But late in the race, around mile 22, running with two other top contenders, Dakota Lindworm and Carolyn Rotich, and still in contention for the team, Betsy dropped from the race. And with that, her Olympic marathon dream was over.
It was one of the hardest things I have ever experienced, to be honest with you, because for me, like, I did one of the best training build-up I've ever done, and I knew, like, no matter what, I was gonna be able to make the team. So showing up on that day, like, things turned out to be the opposite. And when we started the race, I basically feel comfortable at the beginning. I was like, oh yeah, it's good. But then after like 15K, I started feeling really uncomfortable with the eat. And one bad thing that I did not do when I was getting ready for the trials was to do like the eat acclimatization. And that really played a big role in me. Like, especially we starting the race when it was like already, very warm. And I just felt like I was not myself when I crossed the half marathon, and I started feeling like, oh, that was really hard. We crossed like 71, but I was feeling really, really uncomfortable. So basically, when you feel uncomfortable, when you cross the half marathon with like 71, it's not going to be a good day, because you still have another 21K to go. And if you started like not feeling okay, chances for me, especially myself, I knew like it was gonna be a long day out there. So I keep grinding and keep pushing. And at some point, I started throwing up, and I started feeling really, really congested in my chest. I felt like I was getting overheated, and I tried to drink the water, but I tried the fluids. It was not working. I tried to take the plain water. I started throwing up, and I started like my legs were just completely done. I was completely shut down, and I just went to the point whereby I was like, it was the three of us. I remember running with Dakota and Caroline Rotich, and the three of us were fighting for the third spot. And geez, I just felt like I cannot keep going anymore. Like, I am dying. Like, I just feel my body is done. And I just pull aside and I laid on the grass. And one thing that came to my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, like, how did this even happen? I was like anybody else out there wondering, like, as an athlete, I know it can be really training. I was really exhausted in my mind. And I immediately after that, I just like, I just had to move on. I went to the hotel, I closed the door, and I went to the room, and I put my head down, and I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even eat. I couldn't do anything. I was just frustrated with everything. And the good news with that, it took me like maybe 3 hours or 4 hours of processing. And then I remember waking up in the morning. I was having a very early flight, like 4 a.m., and I was meeting with one of the CEOs for the Asics, Betsy Saina, and I walked to him and I was like, guess what? Can I go to Tokyo? He looked at me and he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I'm very positive. Because after thinking the whole night, because of course I couldn't sleep, to be honest with you, because, we are all human beings, and even if you try so hard to be like, oh, it's fine, it didn't work out. But at the same time, you still have that thing whereby you've worked so hard and you really want to produce, you really want to make it, and it's an Olympic year. Everybody wants to be at the Olympics, and since it didn't work out, it really, I will not say like it was really an easy thing to walk away from, to be honest, because as a mom, I knew like I have to run at the Olympics. To be honest, I knew like I want to represent my son and to show that what I've been working for, because I spent a lot of time not being with him, but training and trying to get better and trying to be able to be in the best shape of my life for the Olympic trials. But then, things didn't work out really well. So it wasn't something to be like, oh yeah, it's fine. It didn't work out. It was really, really deep inside me. I was really hurting, and I was so happy that when I spoke with Ben Sisa, he accepted. He was like, okay, sure, we will send a message and you can go to Tokyo. But I know, like, they were not sure what I was talking about, because, you could imagine when someone is frustrated, you can always make stupid decisions, be like, I'm ready for this, and you are not. But, the next day again, he sent me another message saying, like, are you sure you want to do this? I was like, yeah, of course I do. And, I took my flight and I went to see my sister for like 2 days. And then I went back to Kenya. I only had, I would say I had only maybe 2 weeks of training, to be honest, because the race was exactly 1 month, and I will not count the first week because I was still crumbling. You are still trying to recover from what you did, because I ran up to 22 miles, I think. And when I got home, I went for my easy run 2 days, and then I did a workout, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling like myself again. And after like a week, my agent sent a message again saying like, okay, you are confirmed for Tokyo. And I was like, sure. So I just keep doing, the training with no pressure at that moment, to be honest, because all I said was like, I just want to go to Tokyo and see what I can do. And again, I did not set any goals saying I want to break 220 or something, because at that moment was just like I just wanted to race and see what I can do. But things happen. I went to Tokyo and I surprised myself. Actually, I was in American record until 35 or 36k, and unfortunately, I didn't have anyone to push me, so I ended up running by myself, especially the last 10k of the marathon. So I finished the race really, really happy, and I was very excited because I felt like I've achieved, even though I didn't make the Olympic team, I felt like I've achieved something really special for myself.
Betsy Saina had definitely achieved something special for herself. She'd run a PR, she'd broken 2:20 in the marathon, a huge achievement, and she'd placed 5th at a World Majors marathon. Also, she'd been on American marathon record pace until late in the race, up until about 35k, which is roughly 22 miles, and it was not at all what she had expected.
Honestly, it was surprising again because, like I said, all I did when I was in that race is just like I just went out with people. I just wanted to go and enjoy and just go with the girls as long as I can and see what happened. And the good thing when you don't set goals, though, like when you don't put yourself in pressure, saying like I want to do this, I want to do this. With myself right now, I've noticed that I perform better when I don't have pressure.
The next race on Betsy's schedule was the 25k champs, which took place 2 months after the Tokyo Marathon. And coming into the 25k, Betsy once again had no pressure and no set goals.
Honestly, like, have you seen when you go for a race without too much pressure, or all that I wanted to do that day was just to go out and have fun. Like I like racing, and it was a while since I had a race, and I was excited to finally be back on the race. And I didn't set any big goals, to be honest, like, going for the American record or something like that. All I wanted to do was just have fun and enjoy racing with the girls.
Betsy lined up at the 25k champs wanting to have some fun and see what she could do on the day. She had no set plan, and as it would turn out, she ended up racing without the trusty tech tool that most every runner relies on, the GPS watch.
I've never ran before without the watch, especially with road racing, to be honest. But with some reason, I tried to start my watch and I was not getting the signal with it. My GPS was completely off, and I keep trying and trying. And I was like, well, it's like 20 minutes since I started like turning on my GPS, but the signal was not working. And I think very much because of it was so gloomy. We did not have any visibility. And actually, we started the race in the middle of the buildings. So whenever you want to start a GPS, especially around the buildings, it's always really, really hard to get a signal. And so I keep trying and trying, and I was like, guess what? It's not working, and I don't want to run with it when I am not going to use it. So I decided I just get it out and give it to Nikki, the race organizer. I was like, yeah, you know what? Just keep my watch. I will see you at the finishing, because it's pointless to use the watch that is not working. So it was one of those races whereby you're like, oh my gosh, this is my first race to run without the watch. But honestly, I feel like it worked out perfect because I did not know what I was doing.
Without her GPS watch, Betsy knew she wouldn't be able to check her pace, so she'd have to rely on gauging her effort by how she felt and tap into her well-honed race instincts and experience. She was also familiar with many of the other top contenders, including pros Annie Frisbee, Dakota Lindworm, who had earned her spot on that U.S. Olympic marathon team and will be racing in Paris. And there was Emily Durgan, who had just won the 10-mile national championships and almost broken the American record at that distance. As it would turn out, all of that knowledge and experience would serve Betsy well in the race. But of course, that was all yet to unfold. Approaching the start line, Betsy had other things to concern herself with.
It was windy and it was rainy. So unfortunately, it was I could say it was not ideal for racing. When we were warming up, everybody was like, oh my gosh, I would prefer when it's warm. And we were not talking a lot. Everybody was just like really worried because of the wind and the rain. But the good thing, we started the race, and fortunately the rain stopped and we didn't get to run on the rain. But it was a little bit windy and it was chilly. So that's how the race started.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the race started really aggressively compared to last year when I ran. I won last year, but we started very decent. Like, it wasn't like aggressive the way we started. So, yeah, like for me, I knew I didn't know how fit Annie was, but I knew Emily Dagin was very fit because she had already ran like 2 races. She almost broke the American record for the 10 miler in Cherry Blossom, the Washington DC. And so when I read someone had posted that she was going for the American record, my goal was like, I'm gonna sit behind her because I did not know how fit I was. Because for me, I did a marathon in Tokyo and I did not get enough time to prepare for the 25k because I took my time to recover before getting back to training. So I basically didn't follow Annie immediately. I started following Emily because I was like, okay, my goal is like just follow Emily as long as you can. But after like almost 1.5 kilometers, I saw Annie was like pushing and she was actually creating a good gap between us. And I was like, oh wait, I think I'm in the wrong place. So I made a huge move and I tried really fast to make sure that I catch up with her because I knew like being an experienced racer for a long time, you cannot leave somebody to go. Really, if you leave like the gap to be like 20 seconds, it's very hard to cover that. And so I decided to make a move, and when I just caught up on her, I started like tackling along and sitting behind. And I wasn't sure how long she was gonna go, to be honest with you, but like I said before, don't underestimate anyone in a race because you don't know what they have done. So I keep chasing on her and she didn't slow at all. When we were in like 7K, I knew like, it's not getting any slower. So I told myself all I have to do is hang around with Annie and just keep pushing and see what happened at the end of the race. But like, she keep pushing. It's 10K, it's 15K. And, like the girl is just grinding it. And I was like, oh my gosh, when I was in 15K, I was like, well, maybe I'm not feeling comfortable, like, because she did not slow at all. But I don't give up immediately when I don't feel good. Like, I know at some point the body will, start warming up and start feeling better. And yeah, that's exactly what I did. It's just like, I knew like I started throwing up at some point because I took a gel and I normally don't. And when I when I took the gel, I started having like an upset stomach in 10K, and I started throwing up a little bit when I was running. But the good news with it is like when I was running, I still feel the posture was really good and everything was coming along well. It's just like I was not comfortable, to be honest. But for me, all I wanted to do was just like, when you have someone who is pushing the pace and you are the one sitting at the back, the chances for you to be able to get the win is, I would say, 70%, because you are not using a lot of energy when you are not the one doing the work. So I knew like if I keep tagging along and not allowing her to give me any distance from me, I knew like I was gonna get it. So yeah. And I told myself, like, all I have to do is to hang around with her until 18K. And then, I did that last year and it worked out perfect. When I made a move with 3K to go. So everything started changing. After 15K, I started feeling comfortable, started feeling better. Because at the beginning, I was not feeling great, to be honest. But yeah, thank goodness by 18K, I started feeling okay. And, I ended up pulling when I was like 23 or something like that. And I ended up getting the win.
Betsy Saina had done it. She'd won the race, earning her second national title in a row at the 25k distance. And, as she realized when she crossed the finish line, she'd also set a new 25k American record, running a time of 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 32 seconds. And this became one more triumphant step in Betsy's post-Olympic trials season. Coming off of these phenomenal performances, first at Tokyo and then at this 25K, Betsy has her eyes on some big goals, including a fast fall marathon, where she will very likely be poised to go after the American women's marathon record. And wrapping up the coverage of the 25K, first up, a big shout out to Annie Frisbee, who did lead for much of the race, pushing the pace. Annie came in second to Betsy, just a few seconds behind. In third was Dakota Lindworm. Emily Durgan was fourth, followed by Molly Bookmeyer, Brittany Fever, Allie Kiefer, Anne-Marie Tewksbury, English Tomlinson for ninth, and Stephanie Sherman rounds out the top 10. And that does bring us to the end of this race report featuring Betsy Saina. Thank you so much, Betsy, for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. It is truly an honor to feature you. And best of luck on all your racing coming up this season and beyond. I'm excited to continue following Betsy's progress. She's such an exciting racer to watch. And if you, like me, do want to keep up with Betsy, please look to the show notes and I will provide a link to her Instagram account. Also, be sure to tune in for the next race report, which will cover the 6-kilometer national championships that are going to be taking place on July 13th in Canton, Ohio. The race report episode featuring one top 10 finisher will come out shortly thereafter. So be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you do not miss that episode or any of the other great episodes coming out. There are a lot of great stories already in production. All right, well, that is going to do it for me. I am Cherie Louise Turner. I am the host and producer of Women's Running Stories. Thank you once again for being here. I always appreciate you listening, and I also always appreciate you sharing the podcast. Thank you. And until next Tuesday, I do wish you healthy, joyful, resilient strides forward. Women's running. Women's running stories.
Hear Her Sports is a podcast for everyone who loves stories by and about women striving to improve and make a difference in their lives. I am your host, Elizabeth Emery, a former professional cyclist. In every episode, I introduce a female athlete or woman in the business of sport through a thoughtful conversation about who they are and the terrific work they're doing. My guests and I explore the glorious and frustrating issues in sports, history, equity, training, nutrition, and so much more. Join us for inspiration, for community, and for love of being a strong, athletic woman.